Last time, on Powerless, Peyton somehow had the authority to get her friend from the slums, Adina, to come make her some pretty princess dresses. Kai came to Peyton's room at midnight to teach her how to dance, and that went exactly how you thought it would. The ball happened, and Peyton wore silver, unlike all the other stupid girls who wore green. Kai stood around being jealous of Kit for being Peyton's date and ignoring his own date. The rebels, TM, bombed the party, as we only now recalled Peyton stealing that note randomly before. Kai carried Peyton out of the ballroom like she was a toddler, and we're still supposed to think he's hot. Peyton hid with Kit and company down in the safe room. They chatted a little bit. And then she went back out to fuss over Kai, but the rebel situation was fully handled. And last, Kai awakened in a forest with bad poetry in his pocket, and he fought some guy and got a bunch of stuff handed to him, so he never had to actually work or try for anything. Typical prince behavior.
Welcome back. We are back with Paeyden, chapter 24. But before we launch into this chapter, first of all, if you hear my washing machine, don't be alarmed. But second of all, I was remembering in the previous chapter where good old Kai just basically had everything handed to him by the narrative. So he wakes up, he recognizes the woods as someplace he's been before, but he doesn't find his way around because he's familiar with it. He finds his way around because he climbed a tree and he looked around. And I mean, that is active, so I'll give him that. That's the most active thing that he did. He climbed a tree, he looked around, he found water. The water was not like a natural stream or anything. The water was water that was magically put there so he could, no effort, be able to drink it safely. So he moseyed his way over to the water, where he easily lit a fire, he had plenty of water to drink, and then an enemy just handed himself to Kai, because we were never in doubt that Kai was going to win, obviously, but he didn't have to do anything. He was handed everything in that chapter, and that's not engaging to read. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes characters have to get lucky, but you want to disguise it better than that, especially in a situation like this where we're told that he's been in these woods and he's familiar with them, but then he doesn't use that in any way to, pathfind. He didn't know of a stream that was nearby. He found one that was magically given to him. Let's see now if Paeyden has a similar situation. Also, if he knows this woods, what's to stop him from just leaving it? Also, luckily, everybody seems to be wearing clothing that is acceptable for wandering around in the woods, because she also mentions that she's only wearing the clothes that she was asleep in. So good thing she wasn't wearing, a sheer nightie. Yeah, she's just wearing a tank top, but it's a quote-unquote more revealing tank top, and her pants are fine. But, we had to get her in something that her titties are gonna basically spill out of. We could not picture our heroine running around the woods unless we could see her nipples through her shirt. See, if anybody's going to be out of place in the woods, it would be city girl Paeyden. So I want to see her really struggle out here, because she knows how to survive in the city. We've seen her do it. I want to see her just completely floundering in the woods because she has no idea what she's doing. She says she encountered a snake that nearly bit her foot off. How big was that friggin' snake? If it could fit your foot in its mouth. Granted, many snakes could fit a human foot in their mouth, but it would take them a little while. It wouldn't just be how... I cannot get over these people who are literally just human video cameras. The laziness. Also, how does she know what a site is, these human video cameras? She sees one and she's like, they are here to document the trials. But then immediately after that, she tells us that the trials have never taken place outside of the arena before. The arena where everybody has seats to watch. If everybody was just there watching, it implies that these sites, these video camera people, weren't necessary until now when we're doing it in the woods for some reason. It's different now. We have to do it in the woods because Kai is here. And I mean, obviously, the number one way to test whether Kai will be a good quote-unquote enforcer is to put him in the woods. None of this makes any sense. She's annoyed that nobody warned her what the trials were going to be like, but need I remind you that she never asked. She just kept hearing it's going to be different, and she never once tried to ask. Even if she had tried and people just shut her down, but she didn't. She just kept hearing it's going to be different, and then she had no further questions, Your Honor. I really wish I had Why Is It Always the Dumb Bitches on here, honestly. She thinks that them being thrown out into the middle of this woods is like brilliant and cunning on the part of the king, and I just have no idea how that could be. He just put you out in the woods. So she did the exact same thing as Kai. She climbed a tree and she located water. Again, like, yes, she climbs buildings, so maybe her instinct would be to climb a tree, but maybe she makes some mistakes while she's climbing the tree because she doesn't know how to put her weight on dead branches and stuff. Sorry, my washing machine just decided to get rather more loud. Like, let her make some mistakes because she's in the woods instead of just handling it just as well as Kai did. Oh, she's found arrows. Her transformation into Katniss is just almost complete at this point. Never mind, she also found a bow and quiver, like not far from where the arrows were. I forgot to mention that's another thing. Kai just had weapons handed to him, and she's just having weapons handed to her. In the Hunger Games, people had to risk their lives for weapons, and here, the weapons just are plopped on the characters' laps. And of course she would get a bow and arrows. She's the girl, and everybody knows that girls can't use anything except daggers and bows and arrows. They can, however, sometimes fight hand to hand, especially if they kill people with their thighs. She also knows how to make arrows somehow, even though she's lived in the city her entire life, and I cannot think of any reason why she would need to make arrows. Honestly, we're probably about to find out that this was something else that her dad just happened to teach her how to master off page before we even met her. I was right! The very next line, Dad taught me how to do all of this. How did he have time to train his daughter to, like, be a master, like, combatant and master thief and super observant like Sherlock Holmes, and also make arrows and whatever else skills she's going to pull out of her ass throughout this book before she was like 13 years old or whenever he died? Like, the man was very focused on her upbringing, clearly. Yep, and she's so good with a bow and arrow that she kills a rabbit by shooting it in the eye. A skill that she's no doubt had plenty of time to practice with her life as a thief in the city. Also, she will conveniently know how to dress this rabbit and how to best cook this rabbit, and she'll be an expert at starting fires, because there are no skills besides dancing that this girl shouldn't have, logically. And of course, as she's wandering through the woods, what is she thinking about? Her own survival, the weird amount of skills that she has, maybe like what she wants to do with this rabbit she's gonna cook? No. She's thinking about Hot Boy. Again, we are given no indication of what type of greenery she is traipsing through, just that she is traipsing through it. She runs, oh my god, I can't handle this. Like, I thought the beginning of the book was pretty bad, but this is just atrocious. I would have some things to say if I was developmentally editing this book. She finds a t-shirt, and yes, they call it a t-shirt, just conveniently hanging in the forest, because this forest is littered with anything that the contestants might need. And she just puts it on. She doesn't wonder if it's somebody else's, if they maybe hung it there to dry. She just assumes it's a shirt for her, so she no longer has to deal with the fact that her, like, nips are hanging out. Why then even put her in a shirt that needs to be replaced with a different shirt so you can have that different shirt conveniently hanging in the woods for her? I hate this. If you really want her to not be wearing a shirt where her nips are hanging out, then just give her that shirt when she wakes up in the forest. This author is going out of her way to find contrivances for her characters. So then she hallucinates for some reason. I don't care why, honestly. She hallucinates a pool of water, but as she draws closer to it, she sees Kit floating dead in the pool of water. For the very first time, she has the thought, even though he looks like his father, what if that's where the similarities end? What if he's nothing like his father? So she runs into the pool to pull him out, and oh no, there's no pool actually there. She hallucinated the whole thing. Why does it take seeing Kit supposedly dead in a pool? First of all, she does not question that. She doesn't go like, what's he doing here? How did he get out here? She just goes, he looks so much like the king. But what if he's not like the king? I feel bad that he's dead in a pool randomly in the woods. Like, the clunkiness of this plotting is unparalleled. This is light lark bullshit. We have reached light lark bullshit levels. I was going to say that this author was not doing the worst, especially for someone as new as I believe she is to writing. If this is the first book that she's ever written, up until now she wasn't doing too bad. For a first book ever, if that was the case, it was actually doing pretty good. However, now, oh my god, I can't describe how utterly just awful this plotting is. I've been trying though, and I will keep trying. So then she turns around and she sees herself, and it's at that point that she realizes that she's hallucinating. She thinks that dehydration is making her hallucinate to this level, and it's like, no, it's not. Probably at the point where you're at, where you've been walking for most of a day without water, you would have a headache, you would be tired, you might have muscle aches, but you would not be to the hallucination stage of dehydration yet, especially not such complex hallucinations. Also, again, this character is an idiot, but she knows the powers of the other contestants, and she knows, at least I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that at least one of them can cast illusions. So, I give it an honorary, why is it always the dumb bitches? Finally, she figures it out. She hallucinates visions of herself for quite some time, before she realizes that it's a person who's like causing it. He's casting illusions of her when she was younger, and I don't know how he's doing that. Did he know what she looked like when she was younger? Or is he able to pluck that from her brain somehow?
This feels like the perfect time to pause and mention that if you want someone to nitpick your book apart and find all the places where you thought you had all of the answers, but in fact you have left some glaring gaps in your story, then you can hire me as your developmental editor. Your first 5K words are only $25, so find me on Fiverr.
So the character who's doing this is Ace. He's the one whose only personality trait is haughty, and he demonstrates this by immediately sticking his nose in the air while he's talking to her out in this woods where they're supposed to kill each other. I am actually going to go ahead and give this side characters no personality, because all of the side characters have one personality trait each. Again, she is dumb as a box of rocks because she doesn't wonder why he's just like completely just standing right in front of her and talking haughtily at her when she's got an arrow aimed for his chest. And then he comes towards her and she shoots the arrow, and she's surprised when he's not there and it was just an illusion. Whatever brain cell this woman possessed clearly got left back at the castle. Ace has gone full Naruto shadow clones. He's surrounded her with like a bunch of copies of himself, and I'm kind of rooting for him. Conveniently, I guess, when Ace uses his powers, it's like draining. We've really been given no indication that using your powers exhausts or tires you at all, but I guess it does now, suddenly. And so she sees that one of the aces surrounding her is sweating, and the clones aren't sweating for some reason. He didn't think of like making them exact copies of him. I don't know, but he's sweating with the effort of keeping up the illusions. So she's like, aha, I found him. So she shoots him in the leg and runs away, which is a choice. Like, why not stay and take his armband? That's kind of the whole point, but she just shoots him and leaves. Somehow Ace injured her also, even though there was no indication that he had a weapon at all. She says it was from a spear, which doesn't make any sense because I feel like we would have heard if he had a spear. That's pretty noticeable. Like a dagger he could have hidden, but a spear? But yeah, she says it's a spear injury, and she's gonna have to deal with that, I guess. And that's it. She just continues her quest to find water, and we will come back to her in the next chapter. I'm going to go start my lunch cooking, and then I will be right back. All right, my food's in the oven. Let's get back with Paeyden as she bumblefucks her way through life. Not in the way that she should. She should be fucking up because she's not used to being in the woods. But instead she's fucking up because clearly her brain cells have left. Just vacated the premises. Chapter 25. By the way, we are also, just once again, we're doing the Hunger Games. She can't seem to find water, even though she totally climbed a tree and spotted some. She can't seem to find it, and so she's just getting real dehydrated, just like Katniss did at the beginning of the Hunger Games. So we had to see her shoot a rabbit through the eye. We had to know that she's that accurate with a bow. But so that she can be in more danger, she left the rabbit behind when she shot Ace and then ran away for no goddamn reason. So she sees a fire and she goes towards it, and it's a fire next to the creek, and oh, guess whose fire it is? It's, of course, Sexy Boy. And she notices that he's injured too. She says she's wrapped a strip of cloth under his arm and around the wound just above his swirling tattoo. Is there a reason that this man has a swirling tattoo? So often when we have these tattooed men, the author at least comes up with a reason that they have this tattoo. Like, for example, Xaden, it was his, like, dragon mark that showed that he was, like, a son of the traitor or whatever. But this guy just has a swirling tattoo because that's what hot guys in these books have. Of course, they immediately begin to snark at each other and, like, banter at each other. These two don't have any other way of communicating. So, of course, she passes out because we conveniently injured her in the last fight, and she gained nothing from the last fight except for the injury that makes her now less able to fight Kai and his hotness. But she passes out and it says, I don't remember hitting the ground, but then the next line says, my face connects with the packed earth, but I barely feel it. Well, barely feel it implies that you do feel it, and you just said you don't remember hitting the ground and then told us what it felt like to hit the ground. Which one's the lie? And of course we have the poor girl's injured, so the man's, like, harsh facade is completely cracked because he's like, oh no, what happened to you, poor baby? Oh, we've already got him calling her real name. I thought we were going to wait for further in the book for that, but no, we're getting it out of the way, like, immediately when they are together in the games. He can't figure out where she's injured, even though she was talking about how much she's bleeding all over the place. And, like, she was wearing a skinny tank top and a white t-shirt. And yes, she did rip the shirt to bandage herself, but it made it sound like she had bled through that immediately. But he, of course, has to sensually, like, feel up her entire body, starting at her feet and moving up to figure out where she's injured, because all of these characters took their stupid pills this morning. And this chapter ends with him saying, if you die, I'm going to kill you. And she passes out. And from an injury that, like, means nothing, and we barely even understand how she got it, because apparently Ace just had a spear the whole time and we never heard about it. He was, like, burned in his previous fight, but that doesn't matter because the man is always stronger than the woman no matter what. Don't you ever forget that. There are no situations in which a woman could be stronger than her hot romantic interest, okay? So even if he's injured, she has to be suffering more from her injury so that he can take care of her, all right? So if they're both injured, she will always be injured worse. Anyway, thank you for joining me for that chapter. We're just going to keep on keeping on today. We're just going to go through as many chapters as I can. Let's get back to it with Kai. We have reunited the lovers almost immediately, unlike the Hunger Games where it did take a little while, so... It's been a day. Like, yes, she's injured and that's a problem, but he's like, she's dying of hunger and dehydration. And I'm like, it has been one day. What is this girl made of, tissue paper? Also, her injury is infected in the space of a few hours, like dangerously infected within a couple of hours of her walking in the woods. We are casually reminded that he murders people regularly, but seeing her injured is just the most distressing thing he's ever witnessed. Okay, so Kai's just sheer good luck. He must have taken his good luck pills this morning, is still in effect because as he's rummaging around his camp trying to find something to help, he stumbles upon a little box. And what's in the box? Why, it's the most powerful healing salve that the healers have, and the guy that he fought must have dropped it in the fight. Sometimes I say that a plot, like, makes it easy for the characters, but this is to the next level. Everything this man needs is being handed to him, and if we don't find out that, like, the games are rigged in his favor, and this isn't just, like, crazy random happenstance, but this is, in fact, the game's being rigged so he has everything that he needs, I am going to be just baffled. How the author thought that this was the way to do things is to just have everything handed to the character. Like I said, I will forgive it if it turns out that he was indeed just being handed everything. But I don't think so, because she also just conveniently found a bow, some arrows, a shirt, everything she needed except water was just out there in the woods for her. So yeah, I think it might just be that this author has no idea how to handle the situation that she put her characters in. And so rather than figuring that out, she wants to get to the romance and the lovey-dovey stuff. And so she's just like, he just finds this stuff. Oh, conveniently, the guy that he fought, who just basically handed himself to Kai, had healing salve on him and he dropped it. He does remark that it's unbelievable that this thing has been conveniently like there the whole time, but I don't know if he's going to put two and two together that it is too convenient. Okay, I'm going to poke holes in whatever world building because it's lazy. So he says she was dangerously close to meeting capital D death, which implies that death is personified in their world, which just opens up a million more questions about how they feel about death in this world. He kills people on the regular, and he never thinks about any type of afterlife or where they might go when they die, or the fact that death is apparently like personified in their culture. And you'd think that he would. You'd think we'd get little hints of that. Like, yes, in a different book, I might be like, ooh, capital D death, that's a hint about how they think about death. Let's look forward to maybe finding out more later. But in a book like this, I know it's just the author being lazy and being like, yeah, that's world building. If I capitalize the word death, they immediately start bantering. She wakes up from being unconscious when he's applying the convenient healing salve, and it's straight back to banter. He says, killing is not a hobby of mine, I'll have you know. And then he thinks about how yes, he's had to kill, but it was for a purpose and he didn't enjoy it, which would have meant something if it didn't seem like the times when we saw him kill, he didn't seem like he was fucking enjoying it. He seemed like he was enjoying it. Conveniently, everything is just gonna be conveniently from now on. Just assume everything I say comes with the caveat of conveniently. The healing salve is like some of the strongest that the healers make, but also it won't completely heal her injury, so he still has to stitch it up, so they can continue to banter as he stitches up her injury. And we have a who did this to you? We gotta have one of those. That's in the rule book. I'm pretty sure. For romantasy books, you have to have the man say those exact words, who did this to you. Like the trope, it's not even real unless he says the exact lines. He says, plagues, if I wasn't already going to hell, I am now. You believe in hell? Your world has a hell and people get sent there for being annoying? Because that's what he's doing. He's just being annoying with her. It's all just banter, the most cliche banter that you expect. If that is the thing that makes your brain go brr, you might like this book. There's obviously no nuance or creativity to it. So if you like that kind of thing, but you don't want to read the same thing you've read 8 million times again, then this is not the book for you. But if you just like a steady stream of the most safe and predictable banter you've ever read, then I can't recommend this book enough. Yet, she's giving him her backstory now. She's it's all right, it's time for us to trade tragic backstories. And she says that she was 13 when her father died. So before she was 13 years old, he trained her to be a master fighter, master hand-to-hand combat, a skilled marksman with a bow and arrow. To make the arrows herself, she did some of that. He taught her how to read people better than Sherlock Holmes, and whatever other skills that she's gonna pull out of her ass later on. Before she was 13. He's fully in love with her right now, by the way, just in case you're wondering. All it took was seeing her collapse on the ground for this man to realize, I love this bitch with my heart, my soul, every fiber of my being. I cannot stand it if I never see her again. Fully on board. Then they realize that they're being filmed by one of those people who is basically a walking camera. He has to carry her, pick her up, and Princess carry her over to the fire, of course. But also, he did manage, we get a second who did this to you because she didn't answer him the first time. And she mentions that it was Ace and that she didn't kill him, which means that we can have the next trope of that the guy goes and fucks up whoever hurt his precious, precious girl. She shot Ace in the thigh. He's probably also dead because, if he pulled the arrow out, he probably bled to death. So he sits there and thinks about how he's unworthy of her, that she's just the best and he's just a horrible man. But he doesn't think about the fact that he's a horrible man because he, kills innocent people and steals them away from their families and exiles families out into the desert to die. That's not why he thinks he's horrible. He just thinks that he's just not as happy and like jolly of a person as his brother, and that's why he's unworthy of her. He's like, I'm too broody, I'm too dark. And I'm like, no, it's because you kill people. You go into people's homes and you take their family members. That's why you're a bad man. We get that line that we saw on the cover. If I am her enemy, I want it to be because she loathes herself for wanting me. And even in context, it doesn't make any sense. And then we're on to chapter 27 with Paeyden again, and I'm gonna go get my lunch. We are back. I have my lunch. It is French fries, and I'm dipping it in cheese. And I have an orange crush. Not sponsored. Why do I feel the need to tell you what I'm eating? I don't know. It just feels like the friendly thing to do. Chapter 27, we are back with Paeyden. Undoubtedly, she is not going to be as in love with him as he is with her, because that's the trope. The girlies don't like when women are in love with the men. The men are supposed to be head over heels, would die for the woman. ASAP, the woman is allowed to take their time. She wakes up in the camp with him. He's all hands in his pockets, looking all nonchalant. He didn't take her armband while she slept, which, like, why couldn't he? Like, what would that do? They're in the forest. She already said that she has no intention of winning the game. She blatantly said during her interview, she just wants to survive it. What better way to survive it than to just let this man have your armband? We already established that you don't die if you don't win. He's back to calling her darling, because of course he is. Because she's not dying anymore. Yeah, she's still in that phase of any romantic feelings that she has for him, and she does have a lot, of course. She just thinks are annoying. It's annoying how much I like his smile. It's annoying how much I like his voice, and she's gonna do that for a while yet, even though he's fully succumbed to her charms. They're bantering. Again, like I said, these two don't know how to do anything except for flirtily banter with each other. She smells him. He smells like pine again. I mean, this whole place should smell like pine because last we heard they were in a pine forest, but he still smells like pine. And rain, somehow, even though it hasn't rained. So obviously, people are allowed to partner up in this game, and he's like, we should just be partners. Cool, why not just give him your band? Do the rules say you have to stop playing as soon as your band is taken? Because that other guy didn't seem to. But of course they agree to be partners, which means we can look forward to non-stop snarky banter. I like me some bantery characters. I love to write bantery characters, but like these two bring nothing to the table. They're both just cinder blocks with the next line that you would expect written on them. Okay, he's just injured enough where she gets to like sexily / suggestively like straddle his leg while she, pulls the bandages off of his manly chest. She's mad because he used up all the healing salve on her because he's just so in love with her. And I'm like, just like wait a few minutes and more will appear because Kai just has like the best luck. We're not in his POV right now and the luck might need to be in his POV to happen. But otherwise, maybe just wander around in the woods a little bit and you'll find some more. Oh my gosh, this makes no sense. So, as well as being good at everything else, she is actually a skilled, herbal healer. She knows what plants to use as a remedy for his injury. And conveniently, those plants grow near water. It says specifically, those plants grow near water, except there's a couple problems with this. First of all, why is this city girl who's been living in the city her entire life good at making healing salves from plants that you find in the woods? Why would she even know what those plants look like? At best, she would know what they look like dried at the apothecary stall, but no, she's a master at that. Her father probably taught her, in between teaching her all the other 8 million things she's a master of. But also, this pond is not natural. We heard that it was caused by magic. It wasn't here originally. So, did the magic also make all of these water plants grow up around it instantly? Because otherwise, they wouldn't be here.
How is Rocco gonna eat that cookie, Zoe? Oh no, Rocco doesn't even have a mouth. Rocco's just a rock. Rocco's not alive.
He calls her a little thing again, a talented little thing. If a man ever calls me a little thing, it's not gonna go well. We'll just say that. She says, I'm the daughter of a healer, remember? Which does not explain why she has this skill, because he was a magical healer. He was a magical healer. Unless we're implying that, in between all of his healing duties and training his daughter to be a master at everything, he had time to also take her foraging so that she could learn all of the herbs that are needed to make solves that she herself on the page here says are inferior to anything that a healer would make. So why would he even make them if he is a healer and can make better things?
Is it supposed to be stupid?
It's not stupid. It's advanced.
Now that he's the one being healed, it's his turn to reveal his backstory. Banter, banter, banter. My God, this chapter is kind of long too. Is it all banter? Send help. I am not okay. We have a reverse of who did this to you. He's telling his sad backstory about how he was trained into a killer and he had to undergo torture. And she said, who did that to you? So we got, how many times can we have a who did this to you? I needed to have that on the bingo card as well. Honestly, I probably could have had that instead of awkward sex scene because I don't know if this book is actually going to have sex in it. Yeah, we definitely have a preponderance of who did this to you. Because he had a hard childhood and his dad abused him, it's okay that he goes into people's homes and takes their family members and kills them. He's sad. Again, it would be one thing if we were in his POV and saw at least how much he hated doing it, but he doesn't hate doing it. She's like, what did your father do to you? Please tell me all of the excruciating details so that the reader can feel sorry for you and totally forgive you for the fact that you are just evil. This is the first time we have any indication of what Kit plans to be like as the king, because in the telling of his tragic backstory, which is basically Grimm's backstory, honestly, same guy, have they ever been seen in a room together? Anyway, so he tells her his tragic backstory, and he also mentions a couple of times how Kit had a much cushier life, and he spent time training to be a politician and a king, and he says that Kit fully plans to follow in his father's footsteps to make his father proud, which it would have been helpful to know, first of all, if that's true, which I don't know that it is, because I think he's just making that assumption. But also, this could have been something great for the main character to even ask herself at any given point. So he says that he would never want to be king, because if he was, that would mean Kit would have to have his role. And selflessly, oh, you guys, he's so selfless. He doesn't want Kit to have to do what he has to do. And I'm sitting here going, but if you were king, you could just make it so there was no enforcer, so that nobody went out and just killed people. Or are you saying that there needs to be an enforcer because you believe that the people who don't have powers should be killed? Can we interrogate that at all? That this guy might just be kind of telling you, Peyton, that he's just as racist as his father? So she asks him, if you didn't have to be the enforcer, what would you like to do? And he hits her with the, I've never really thought about it because even though I hate this role, it's my duty. It's what I have to do. It's what I'm born to do. And she's just like, oh, that is so deep and meaningful. Because he accepts that he's going to have to be a killer the rest of his life, even though he doesn't want to. He's admirable. That means he's admirable, you guys. Because he feels bad, I guess. At least he's telling her that he feels bad because we have not seen it in his point of view that he feels bad. But he's accepted that he's a monster and he's doing his duty for his kingdom, even though Paeyden, the duty that he's doing for his kingdom is killing people like you. The only reason he didn't kill you is because you convinced him that you have powers. This girl is just no thoughts head emptying her way because she thinks that this guy is hot and sad. And please, please do better.
This is a Nazi romance and you cannot convince me differently. YouTube's gonna be mad. I'm gonna be saying all these words, but maybe I wouldn't think that quite so hard if you literally didn't open Kai's first chapter with being a play-by-play of essentially the opening of Inglourious Bastards. You put that in my head book, and now this is just a Nazi romance. So Kai is a member of the Gestapo, and Paeyden is a young Jewish girl who's managed to disguise the fact that she's Jewish. And so she's sitting there looking at this Nazi in his face and being like, well, he is a little bit sad that he's had to kill so many of my people. But he doesn't know that I'm a Jew, and so he's not killing me, and therefore it's okay. Like, that's what's happening right now, and it's horrifying. And why is nobody talking about this?
So now that we've gotten through his obligatory tragic backstory, and she is completely charmed and feels so sorry for this man who kills people, then they go back to flirting, and she points out that he is very flirty, but of course she's like, well, you flirt with everyone. I remember all those girls you were flirting with back at the dance, which we never actually saw. I think it was like told to us in a line that he was like charming some girls, but it left a non-impression because we didn't actually see him flirting with the girls. We were just told he was doing it, and then she slaps him again. Because why not? Oh, she slapped him because there was a mosquito on his cheek? What was that sequence? Also, are there mosquitoes in this woods? Are there bugs of any kind? This is the first time hearing of it. So they're bantering, and I don't think the author knew how to end this scene, so all of a sudden he, like, grabs her and whips her around and holds her against him, and it's because they're being surrounded by wolves. Do wolves live in this forest? Or is this another illusion? I don't know, because we're given, like, no indication of what could be out here, which seems like something that we could get from Kai, because again, he claims he comes out here all the time to train, so it would be a perfect opportunity for the author to cue us into what we could encounter out here. But no, they're still bantering while they're being surrounded by wolves, by the way. I think that we can look forward to the rest of this book being mostly just really uncreative banter. I hope these wolves fucking eat them. These people will not shut up. Well, they're not illusions because she kills one with an arrow and the wolves are just attacking them. I have no idea, like, what wolves are like in this world, but I'm gonna guess that they are just needlessly violent because wolves in our world generally don't just attack people like this, but these are Disney wolves, so they are just fully on the hunt, on the attack. She's, of course, being a Legolas, just putting arrow after arrow into these wolves. These wolves are so determined to kill Kai and Paeyden that even injured, they're still crawling forward. And Paeyden doesn't wonder about this. She doesn't seem to think that this is maybe unnatural behavior for an animal. And I don't know if it is, because there's no world building. She kills her wolves, and she stops to admire him killing his wolves, because he's so handsome when he's ruthlessly slicing things open. This is supposed to be romantic, and instead it's a horrifying red flag that she's going to ignore. So he's mad that she doesn't follow orders, and she's like, I'm not one of your soldiers, and he says, you're right, you aren't. My soldiers don't mean anything to me. They're expendable and easy to replace. So yes, Gray, you aren't one of my soldiers. That is an enormous red flag that tells you that he does not value human life. But because he's saying, well, I value your life, then it's okay. It's okay. Because he cares if she lives or dies, just nobody else. Wow. There are not enough red flags in the universe for this man. So I guess wolves just ruthlessly attack people in this world, because now that all the wolves are dead, neither of them are going, wow, those wolves were like unusually vicious. Like even when we injured them, they were still crawling towards us, trying to attack us. Now they're just concerned because, oh no, she broke her stitches in the fight and he got bit. I hope he gets rabies and dies. This girl just decides that now is the time to think a bunch of cliche phrases that don't actually really mean anything, but will look amazing as like quotes for bookmarks or tattoos or something. Walking on a sharp blade and hoping I don't get cut. Playing with fire and hoping I don't get burned. Swimming in a dangerous current and hoping I don't drown. He is dangerous. That is the cringiest thing I have read in a long time. And then we're back to Kai's point of view. Apparently 3 days later. They've just been sitting around being hot for each other for 3 days, perhaps. Because Kai has only good luck, no one else will have attacked them in that time. Because, like, it's not time for Kai to be attacked by another contestant. Delightful. Alright, I'll see you for the next chapter. Alright, it's me, your intrepid reader, Julian Greystoke. I have an emotional support donut. And I'm going to read one more chapter today. Oh, Goodness, it's a longish chapter, which probably means it's just chock full of banter, let's be honest. The banter was the majority of the last chapter, and wolves attacking them. Just a tiny little footnote at the end there. We're with Kai. This is chapter 28. 3 days after the wolves attacked. And already we have found a way to make a death game boring. It's not a death game. Nobody has to actually die. But for 3 days, they've just been camping. They have no motivation to do anything. And this book keeps just handing them things when they need it. Apparently this woods has more snakes. We keep mentioning snakes. So if snakes don't do anything, if somebody doesn't get fucking bitten by a snake at some point, I'm going to be mad. Because we keep talking about how many snakes are in this woods. And also coyotes. Wolves and coyotes in this woods. I mean, it's not that weird, but like, why? He gets back to their camp. Peyton is sitting by the fire looking sexy. He says, I grab some kindling and make my way over, throwing it on the fire before sitting down. Kindling is for starting a fire, my guy. You don't throw kindling on an already burning fire. You throw logs on an already burning fire. I feel very confident that this author has never been camping. Maybe glamping, but never like camping. I have been starting campfires since I was a little bitty child, so.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch.
Paeyden has apparently developed this habit of biting the inside of her cheek. This is the second time he's caught her doing it, and that makes me mad. Because my character Maeve, from my book Adventurer Mage, one of her bad habits is biting the inside of her lips and her cheeks. Why? Because it's a habit that I have. When I'm stressed, I bite the inside of my lips. And Maeve is stressed a lot. She has anxiety. Like, clinically. It just hasn't been diagnosed within the pages of the book. So now I'm mad that this bland piece of nothing character all of a sudden has the same nervous habit as my character. She already had the spinning her father's ring around her thumb as a nervous habit. Why have we also added biting the insides of her cheeks? It says she's a mess of pent-up energy, anxiety eating away at her. Anxiety about what? What has she got to worry about? She doesn't intend to win, and she has a very, very strong partner now who, like, will keep her alive. Honestly, all she has to do is vibe. Oh, we have a she don't know she's beautiful moment. Damn it, I took that off the bingo card. Yeah, they're just bantering again. Someone save me. Bantering is only special if the characters don't do it all the time. She finally asks the question that I've been asking, why don't you just take my the leather armband, and leave me? And he says, I hear her unspoken words echo in my head, leave me to die. Why would she die? Why would she die? Legitimate question. I mean, you fought some wolves together, but have the two of you being together actually, like, benefited her? Yes, she got conveniently injured so that you could heal her up with your convenient healing potion. But, like, now, if she wasn't with you, or if she had already lost, so no one else would have a reason to attack her, why would you be leaving her to die? She's doing great. She can shoot rabbits in the eye. Every single time they get up, they stand to their feet. Every single time. Nobody gets up in this book unless they're standing to their feet. They decide to dance, dancing and bantering in the woods at night with the hair and the moonlight, and I hate it so much. This is one of the blandest death games. And I've read a lot of death games that were pretty bland, but this one is definitely winning some blandness prizes. Maybe not first prize, but definitely winning some prizes. I've already crossed off Deadly Game with no stakes, so alas, we cannot cross it off again on the bingo card. By the way, we're really close to getting bingo if we could just have awkward sex scene, but I don't know if we're gonna get one of those. Oh, also, horny, which we could get because he's, like, constantly thirsty for her. I don't think we've reached as unusually horny levels as we usually reach in these books, which is frustrating because we're almost to 2 different bingos. I'm gonna give it spice over plot. Not because it's necessarily spicy. I will also put romance in that slot because we are way more focused on these two as a couple than this plot at all. This plot is like standing in the background, waving its hand, hoping that maybe the author remembers it exists. But in reality, it's just another cookie cutter romance story. It's just 2 pages of bantering, by the way. Meaningless, fluff bantering. Also, characters never watch each other. They watch each other closely. There's only close watching going on. No just regular watching ever. Oh my god, they're asking each other their favorite colors. Please kill me. They're just doing the two characters ask each other questions scene. So lazy. I don't mind if characters have a scene where they ask each other questions, but like this is supposed to be the middle of a thrilling game where people could die, and instead they're dancing and playing the question game, legitimately asking each other their favorite colors. By the way, Kai is such a dull nothing person that he has never thought about what his favorite color is. But it's so we can do the trope that his favorite color is actually just, it's the color of her eyes. I should have known. Everything is leading into a trope. I am cringing into my body. You remember her lines before, what silly things she said about like walking on a knife's edge, blah, blah, blah. Not until I looked into a pair of ocean blue eyes and realized that perhaps drowning was a beautiful thing. Not until I looked into a pair of fiery blue eyes and realized that perhaps burning was a painless thing. Not until I looked into a pair of sky blue eyes and realized that perhaps falling was a peaceful thing. Oh my god. Maybe pick one of those and it's cringe. But 3 of them?
Those words are really vague, but oh my gosh, are they dramatic?
Editors let this happen, and I am ashamed. I'm dying, by the way. I am passing away from just how unbelievably boring this just the blandest banter. This is killing banter for me. It's slowly murdering banter in front of me. Am I going to be able to write banter scenes after reading this without being like, am I doing it like Powerless? Ugh. All I can make is disgusted noises at this point. But this is just pages and pages of this. And I am perishing. Okay, we're almost to the end. Thank God. And I was right. This chapter is just all banter. We are doing nothing. We are learning nothing. We are not advancing the plot. And we are not getting to know the characters better. Because even though they're answering questions, these are inane questions that do not help us know them better. We are not getting any information that we did not already know about these people, except for, no, we knew he liked her eyes. That's obvious. We are getting 0 new things. They're just old things being presented in slightly different ways. Apparently, though, Kai was kind of close with his mother, which is never clear from the book itself. He says that his mother was great, that he loved her, that she's everything he could have wanted in a mother, but like, she's a non-person in the books. She gets a few lines every now and then. We don't get any kind of affection towards her. The one thing Kai is certain to continually remind us of is that he does not have a choice. He has no choice but to become his father's enforcer and eventually Kit's enforcer. He has no choice because he's fucking never tried. They end up, the 2 of them, they were dancing before. They end up literally doing like the zombie shuffle, the prom kid shuffle, where they just have their arms around each other and they just sway back and forth. Okay, wow, that chapter was rough for me. Not for you, because you didn't have to read it. But that was an entire chapter. I don't know how many pages here. It wasn't the shortest chapter either. 9 pages of the most pointless banter and him ogling her and her looking away and pretending to be annoyed. And then the very last line of the chapter is somebody like interrupting them so that something can fucking happen. Oh my god, that was awful. I have to stop now. I have to go do something else. I have to play video games or something because my brain is going to fall out of my head. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see all of you next time. All right, we're back with more Powerless. We are like exactly halfway. And as you recall, the previous chapter made me want to die. So let's keep reading. Obviously, that is the logical next step. Oh my god, if I had just been reading this book myself and I had not DNF'd it before that chapter would have made me DNF it. Reading this book is like a copy of a copy of a copy. You know, when we used to have to make old school copies of things, and you put it in the copy machine and then it would come out roughly the same but a little bit lower quality, and if you copied that copy, the same thing would happen until you couldn't tell what even was on that piece of paper anymore once you copied it several times. Well, that's what these books feel like to me. They have taken whatever, like, tropes and character traits existed to be jumped off from to make interesting stories, and they have just made a copy of a copy of a copy and plopped them down on the page, and apparently we're still eating it up because these books are still being made and they are still popular, and I still see them. Like, I'm not on Book Talk. I'm not on TikTok at all. I am too old for that, and I accept that about myself. But I am on YouTube, and some of Book Talk does leak over into YouTube, and I am seeing this book on people's, like, favorites. And it makes me so sad because there are so many more beautiful books out there that people could be reading that do a good job with these tropes, good job with these character archetypes. And instead we're reading this over and over again. All right, let's go. By the way, if my nose looks a little red, it's because it's allergy season now. Yay! We are with Peyton, chapter 29. We're already on chapter 29, which is nice, and page 250, so we are making progress on this book that is too long. It does not need to be this long. If I was developmentally editing for this book, I would be like, hey, author, let's talk about some scenes that we don't need. Like that last one. This author also really likes the visual of the two characters standing back to back to fight. And it's like, okay, yeah, that can be a cool visual, and I've even used it in Adventure Mage 2, I think, briefly. So I like it too. But, again, like everything else about this book, it feels cheap when these characters do it. It feels like Walmart brand of every single trope in this book. So the person that is attacking them, if you recall, the last line in that boring chapter was that someone had found their camp. Finally! People are just bumblefucking around this woods. We have no idea how big this woods is. I am given to believe it's quite large. Is it possible for people to just wander around here and never find each other? Maybe. But the person who has found them is Sadie. I don't remember what her power is, but she might be the one who can clone herself because, like, they're surrounded with figures. So we're doing it again. We're doing the guy who can create illusions created, like, illusions of himself and surrounded her. And now, again, we have a different character that is surrounding them with copies of themselves. Because I guess this author couldn't think of anything else to happen to these characters. By the way, I was just looking at my bingo card, and I'm going to give this one Badass Hero Constant Damsel. She didn't need to get injured in that fight that she had, but the author injured her so she could collapse at the feet of her significant other. And, like, even though she's also helped him, it's not to the extent that he's helped her. So I have a feeling that she's gonna be damseling it up. Still have no idea why anybody wants to win this. Sadie's like, I don't want to hurt you, but I want to win. And I'm like, what do you get if you win? Sadie, to my understanding, already has a decent amount of money. She already has a decent amount of prestige. Like, what is in it for Sadie if she wins? What's in it for any of these people if they win? Kai slips her a throwing star because they were dancing. Their weapons are, like, away from them. And here's a small way that Kai is saving her again because she couldn't have just had that on her own person. He has to give it to her. Also, like, I have no feeling of concern for these characters. Obviously, in a book, we can normally be fairly certain that the main character is not gonna die. But good authors can make us feel like there's still that possibility. Good authors can still bring us into a scene and fill us with dread as though we, the author, might just off our main character halfway through the book. I'm sitting here and I'm supposed to believe that, like, she's nervous and afraid and she's clutching the only weapon that she has, this throwing star, that he slipped her, and, like, they are in a dire life or death situation. And I feel absolutely nothing because these two, again, we've talked about it, when you make your characters too competent, too invincible, like, you can wound them all you want, but I don't believe it because they'll just heal it. She conveniently will find the right plants to heal it. He will conveniently find another healing elixir lying around. Like, there's no feeling of danger for these characters. Also, this author likes telling. She's very tell-y, but also she's tell-y in a way that doesn't trust the reader. So she shakes her head at me as though disappointed with my decision. We don't need as though disappointed with my decision. Context clues make it clear why Sadie is shaking her head at the main character, but the author doesn't trust you to get that. So she's got to put that little extra on there. So Sadie correctly identifies Paeyden as the damsel, and she grabs Paeyden and holds a knife to her throat and is like, "Give me your armband, Kai, or I'll slit your pretty girlfriend's neck." And Kai immediately goes into his blasé, "Psh, see if I care. I don't need her. That'll just be one less contestant," which is stupid, because if Sadie saw them dancing together, she would not believe that, even a little bit. But of course she's falling for it. There are supposed to be times when Kai has his mask on and his mask off, quote unquote. And I've also written a character similar to that in my character of Valentine in the Adventure of Mage series. Valentine puts on an act when he's around certain people. He changes his accent, his entire demeanor. He's very outgoing and draws a crowd and commands attention. That's his mask. That's what when he's faking it. Also, Valentine is an extremely good pain hider. He can be dying, and if the right people are watching him, he will never show it. But it's clear when he's being himself. When he's with Maeve, when he's in his camp, when he's himself, and when he is putting on that show. I can't tell the difference with Kai. The main character keeps assuring us that now he's putting on his mask, now his mask is lowered, but as a reader, I can't tell. If you showed me 2 scenes with Kai and you didn't tell me which one he was masked up in, where he was pretending to be his persona, and which one he wasn't, I wouldn't be able to point out which one he wasn't using his quote-unquote mask, because there's no discernible difference. The only difference is when it comes to her, he's more romantic and, I guess, flirty, but he's flirty with his mask on too, but he's just I guess, flirty in a slightly different way with her. I don't. By the way, if you're wondering if this author ever got any better about repeated words, no. I just haven't been pointing it out, because it's a lot. For example, I slammed the razor-sharp throwing star into the soft tissue of her stomach, pushing it deep as I push her hand. Ah, yes, I forgot that Kai could even do that. He mimics her power, so now there are multiple versions of him. So, he should just win this fight then. Seems obvious to me. So now we're supposed to be seeing them as a couple, and how they work together as a couple, and how they're the best team. And again, that's the thing that I love. That's the thing that I love to see in books with a romantic couple or not a romantic couple. Friendship, relationship, I don't care. I want to see how well they work as a team. Everything feels so shallow. Their relationship feels super shallow, so I don't really care how they work as a team. And also, their working as a team should feel like natural extensions of what we've gotten from them so far. We should see what each of them brings to the table that allows them to work well as a team. I guess Kai brings to the table that he can copy everybody's powers, so in this specific instance, he brings the ability to fight all of the Sadie clones. If I'm being generous, I would say that our main character is intelligent, which seriously comes and goes. But she's intelligent. She's cleverer than Sherlock Holmes. She's going to try to find the real Sadie and kill her. So Kai's going to keep all the Sadie clones busy, and she's going to find the real slim Sadie. Which feels like it should be one of those moments where we're getting to see how the characters work together, how we see that they're a perfect team for each other. But the situation and the setup aren't actually doing that with these characters. In a different fight, it might not work out for them to use their abilities this way. And if we want to see these characters as a team, it should be replicable. We should be able to go, okay, this is how they worked as a team in this fight. This is how they will work as a team in future fights, and they'll get better at that. We're getting a very detailed blow by blow. This is exactly what the character is doing. Her right elbow, her left knee, every single thing that she is doing is written down, which I am coming to find can be a novice writer mistake. I know some people do really blow-by-blow fights, but I think you have to be good to write those, and I don't think that this author is there yet. Because it just feels very clinical. It doesn't feel exciting. It's just a list of things happening. Also, if Sadie has figured out that Peyton is coming after the real version of her, why is she still allowing all of her clones to be distracted by frickin' Kai? All right, so after a considerable amount of time, about a page worth of just blow-by-blow fighting, Sadie does realize that perhaps she should use her clones against the person who's actually trying to kill her, and at least one of her clones grabs... I keep wanting to call Paeyden Violet, because Paeyden and Violet are, at this point, interchangeable as characters. You could swap them into each other's books, and I don't think anything would change. That's another sign that perhaps your character is not as strong as they could be. Again, I'm not worried. So Sadie gets the better of her. She pushes Violet. I'm gonna keep calling her Violet. See what I mean? She pushes Paeyden to her knees and is going to stab her in the heart, but of course she's taking her sweet time about it, you know, being like, I have to do this, I'm sorry, you know, like just standing there, like, please stab me, Kai, because I'm right here. And then she's like, the blade is lowering, and the main character's thinking, I'll see you soon, father, and I'm sitting here going, not even remotely concerned that you are in danger. He is about to kill this girl who is going to kill you, which again, more damsel, man's gotta save ya. You got in a few good punches, but he's got to save you in the end. Now we're supposed to be having feelings about the fact that Sadie is dead. Because, like, oh, the main character has witnessed death. And again, that it means nothing because these are cardboard cutout people. I don't care about the death. Like, all of a sudden the main character's gone all introspective about this person that we have barely met. I remembered her name. And this book kept telling me that she has hazel eyes. I don't remember anything else about Sadie. However, if the main character is this affected by a single death, I have some really terrible news for her about her boyfriend. Hi.
Hello.
Noisy man. So she was spiraling existentially at seeing this dead person, and he distracted her with his hotness and more faux romantic banter. I'm starting to think this book hates me on a personal level. So she's still a little bit in distress, and of course he knows that perfect man that he is, so he picks her up and sets her on a nearby stump so she can calm down from her shock. I don't know why she's so fucking shocked. Like, she didn't even kill this person. She didn't even kill this person, and she's acting like this is her first murder. And also, like, in the streets, has she not seen people die of, like, starvation and exposure? She's hurt people plenty. But I guess this death has just, like, sent her fucking spiraling. Again, I have really bad news for her about what her boyfriend does for a living, which she is conveniently just not thinking about ever. But he sets her down and he gives her her father's ring, and he's like, spin this around your thumb like you always do when you're nervous. And she's like, he noticed something about my habits? And I'm like, I don't know how he could fail to notice, because we are being told at least once a chapter that you're doing it. So I think it's something that he would notice, but that gives him extra, even better boyfriend points. Oh, for a second, for a millisecond, she thinks about the fact that he has killed before, but she does it in a way that just makes him seem like a poor whoopee. This girl is delusional. I'm a little bit worried about her, honestly, but she thinks, I suppress a shudder at the thought of the horrors this haunted boy has committed. Also, we're thinking of him as a boy, not as a man, so that it softens it, so that we're more likely to feel sorry for him, even though, again, he takes people's families from their homes and kills them in the street. We see him brutally torture someone at the beginning of this book multiple times, and he's never sorry. In fact, he talks about how he kind of likes it. Okay? We see it from his point of view. So unless he's lying to us, the reader, which he could be, he is not a poor little boy. So the word boy is softening him, like, subconsciously for us readers already. I suppress a shudder at the thought of the horrors this haunted boy has committed, the horrors he's endured. Immediately she flips it. So it's no longer what has he done, it's what has he endured. What has this poor boy endured to murder people in the street? And then he's like, I'm just going to go quick dispose of this body, no big. And again, she is not left thinking about how calm and easy he is about this, how chill he is about this whole thing. She just thinks about how he's just such a poor boy. Oh my God, the baby. No one think of this poor man's feelings. I hate it. I hate it so much. Should I read the next chapter? It's pretty short. Yeah, it's like 3 pages long. All right, I might. But then I gotta go do other things with my day. All right, we're back. With Paeyden, chapter 30, we have made it 30 chapters into this book. We still have so much book to go. Also, it's very nice and convenient that when Sadie died, her clones just like disappeared and they didn't just all also fall down dead, so they had like a bunch of dead bodies to deal with. So yeah, very convenient of her power to work like that. So she mentions like lying down on the cold ground she's so familiar with, but something I want to talk about is something that a more skilled author would do, because Paeyden is a city kid. Yes, she's used to living rough in a city environment. The woods are so different. Different noises, different smells, different temperatures, different just feelings, like laying on hard stone pavement and laying on rocks and sticks and roots. Two different sensations, but it's as though they are not different. Like I feel like she would be kind of freaked out. I've known lots of city people who are very freaked out in the woods in daylight, and you get them in the woods at night and they're terrified, and I'm terrified of the city at night, so it's a trade-off. But yeah, like she has no feelings about being in the woods. More word repetition. Like I said, I'm not pointing it out every time because it's a lot. But I let my thoughts wander while he wanders around in the woods. I've mentioned this before, but word repetition is something I will 100% be helping you catch if you hire me as your developmental editor. I have an eye for it. I will notice it where our eyes slide over it in our own work, myself included. In my own work, it's harder for me to notice because my eyes slide over it. But I will identify the crap out of it in your work. So if that interests you, because clearly editors for these published books aren't doing that. And that doesn't even surprise me, because that is like little fiddly stuff that I don't think editors for like these big companies are getting paid to do. But I will do it for you, for your book. Oh, this is an awkward sentence. A shadow suddenly sweeps over me, belonging to someone now crouching behind. What an odd sentence. That's the whole sentence, by the way. I didn't leave anything out or end early. That's the sentence. Also, she has Sadie's knife for some reason. I don't remember reading that she took it, but maybe I just missed that. Of course, it's Kai, because we cannot have two action scenes back to back. Are you kidding? Oh my god. She's gone back to being the world's greatest detective for like 10 seconds here. Kai comes back and he has dirt on his hands, and so she is like, he buried Sadie. He dug her grave with his bare hands. But she also, amazing detective that she is, and it's nighttime, by the way. I don't think that we ever heard that it wasn't nighttime. She could tell that there's pollen on his hands, which she, genius Sherlock Holmes that she is, takes to mean that he put flowers on Sadie's grave. Or, wild thought, he dug her grave with his bare hands. Maybe he dug her grave in a patch of flowers and he got pollen on his arms. But she's gonna be right.
How on earth do you know that?
It's to prove, though, he did in fact put flowers on her grave, and it's to prove that he's a good man. And we're just not going to think about what he does for a job and what he fully intends to keep doing for a job when all this is over. So this emotion that she's sharing would mean more if we ever saw it building up within her character. Because apparently she's supposed to be very, very affected by this death. She never seemed like a character who would be, but I guess she is. But Kai asks, how are you really doing? And she says, I'm feeling like I almost died today. I'm feeling overwhelmed and in over my head. I'm feeling furious and frustrated because I didn't know how to feel about all of this. This would be great if this had been building in her at all ever. She has never felt overwhelmed. Like, she is one of those main characters who's like, adversity? I'm just gonna keep on cruising. She's not even weirded out by being in the woods for the first time. So this suddenly feeling like she's so overwhelmed, she's witnessed her first death, she's so unprepared for this, it doesn't come from a genuine place. So they're having a little moment where she previously adorably pickpocketed him and took the leather strap that he took off of his first kill. And now he's got Sadie's leather strap, so he's like, you should take this too. And she's like, he wants to offer me the one thing I need to help me win these trials. Why do you want to win? You don't want to win. In fact, you clearly express that you have no desire to win. And I have never seen you, in your point of view, ever go, I actually want to win. It's not like you were lying to the other people, but in your heart you wanted to win. That's not true. So Why do you care who has the leather straps? All it's for, though, is to lead into a scene where she like makes him beg, makes him say please. So everything in this book, very similar to Silly Dragon book, is in service of the romance. And now they're spooning and she's having revelations of how like delicate and careful and sweet he is to her. And I'm like, yeah, to you and only you. It should concern you very much if your significant other is only nice to you. But he's not just rude to other people, which is a big enough red flag. He murders them. I cannot express enough how much of a red flag this man is. But because he's being sweet to her, I just like, this disturbs me that this is a fantasy that we have. I know it's a fantasy that many women have, that you've got this big vicious man who could take on anyone in the world, but he's soft with you. But that man doesn't exist in real life. And hopefully we know that. Hopefully we understand that if you find a man who's mean to everyone else and not to you, it's only a matter of time when he locks you into that relationship before he starts being mean to you as well. Because that's what abusers do. I'm so concerned sometimes that this is a fantasy. If it's a fantasy you have, like, I'm not saying that you're bad or wrong for having that fantasy. I just get concerned that it might lead some people to believe that they have found that in real life, only to find themselves trapped in an abusive relationship. Yeah, and she just falls asleep spooning with him, thinking like how much he inexplicably cares about her. And I'm like, yep, danger, Will Robinson. This is not a good situation you find yourself in, girly, but okay, I guess. Romantic or something, I don't know. Ladies, not ladies, get you a man who is kind to other people besides you. Woof. All right. I'll see you for the next chapter.
Sorry to crush your hopes and dreams. Strong bad.
You know who doesn't crush my hopes and dreams? My patrons, in reverse order just for fun. Sarah, Lisa, Amanda, Jenny, Savvy, Scribbling Cat, Rennie, Jesper, Zaire, Shelby, Callison, Anne Sophie, Patrick, Belle, Light Julie, Kit, Merween, Sophia, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Melissa, Afra, Deborah, Alyssa, Celia, Amanda Lafone, KJ, Jessica, Caitlin, Ursula, Robin, Jojo Bookish, Bear, Kirsten, Pudamancer, Mooney, Kohikaro, Kira, Sam, Haley, Pansing Pony, Roma, 78 kilograms of shade, Kat, Sarah, Peregrine Morningstar, Sunny Shy, Bird Anonymous, July, Martha Baggins, SB Boots, Laknunga, Constantina, Gay Tutter, Jen, Annika, K, Scout, Semi-Dark, and GK. Thanks so much for not ruining my hopes and dreams, everyone.